bear with me, those of you who are seeing this. Hold on a second. So I had a scheduled event today from 10:30 to 11. And then I clicked on something else and it made it to um 10:15 to 10:45 or something of that nature. And I tried to delete that one and it didn't work. And then today I tried to connect to live and that didn't work. So I had to create something different, which isn't showing up as live. So I'm not sure how this is going to work out, but I'm going to record it anyways. So bear with me. Also, this week I got very sick. I still have a bit of a bug going on right now, but welcome. This is the best I can do for you for Mindset Matters. I had hoped to go actually live, but I see that this is not live. This is um, a live test video that I can release after I do it. So I want to go ahead and thank you for being interested in mindset and mindset topics. Um, this class is very informative, and I'm just really sorry that it wasn't live and that I didn't have the interaction with the live. And let me check one more thing. 1 second. Okay, so I do see that this is actually working. So I apologize. This is a half hour after the time that I wanted it to be, but let's start over. Welcome. And I'm Nancy from Nancy's Health and Wellness and Mindset Life Coaching. I'm doing this video today. I had actually created an event and sent it out. And then, like I said, um, unfortunately, I had some major connecting issues. So this is a good example, though, of mindset and how if we persevere with something, we can really accomplish a lot. And I'm, going to be 100% truthful. Very annoyed with the Facebook Live thing today that my actual event was somehow scheduled for two different times. And then, I mean, I just don't know what was happening. And I have gone live before. So, with that said, I want to talk about mindset topics. And those of you who are tuning in for this, there's just like 100 pop-ups on my screen. So bear with me. Not been feeling well this week and not a lot of sleep, and I made my tea and then I totally disregarded it because I was so caught up in trying to get connected on Facebook. So I want to talk about the difference between a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset and how, our personalities are sort of determined genetically, but also we can absolutely change our mindset. That's a question a lot of people will ask is, can we change our mindsets if we're naturally a fixed mindset? So let me break down the definition of mindset and then also the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. So I do have note cards because, well, I can't memorize everything. So I'm going to go ahead and reference these. So, mindset by definition, in decision theory and general systems theory, a mindset is a set of assumptions, methods, or notions held by one or more people or groups of people. A mindset can also be seen as arising out of a person's worldview or philosophy for life. So, A growth mindset, by definition, is is having a mindset, meaning that you believe in your basic abilities and that your basic abilities can be developed and you can improve them with persistence and dedication and hard work. Um, so taking your basic, like your intelligence and your performance, you look at that as I can improve on this. Everything important in life requires huge amounts of effort over long periods of time. Um, and this is extremely true. And people who have a growth mindset are determined to learn ir- irrespective of failures or successes. So they're open minded and they can see both sides. They can see kind of like they're very empathetic, generally speaking. They can see both sides of the coin and they are open to things that people who have fixed mindsets are not open to. So, how would you adopt a growth mindset? Well, first, you'd have to acknowledge and embrace imperfection, that you're not perfect, and that what you're doing isn't always going to be 100%. And pardon me if I have a drink of my tea, but as you can hear, I'm a little bit under the weather this week. So I've got some really good tea going on here, but they people when you want to adopt a growth mindset, you develop a sense of purpose. And if you have life, you have purpose. A lot of people don't know what their purpose is, and maybe they have several purposes. Maybe they have several purposes and um you know, they just don't know. Like, have you ever heard somebody say, "Oh, I'm just on the wrong path." I'm just not on the right path. And really, it's not that you're on the wrong path, it's that you're not managing your path well. You're never on the wrong path. So, another thing to think of with a growth mindset and adopting that mindset is speed is not important. We all get to our goals in different time frames. I've been told that, for instance, I have a catering business and I've scaled back a lot since COVID, etc. And then now I'm, a certified life coach. So um, I had been told before in the past that I was slow in the kitchen, that I didn't get things done quickly. And this was not by an employer, this was by a family member. And it was interesting because I didn't say anything to that. I didn't give a reaction because what do you give for somebody telling you that you're not fast in the kitchen or your speed is not fast enough? Um, the other thing was, though, I looked at my hands and my elbows and my arms, and this person that was telling me this was all cut up. And as a result of them hurrying up in the kitchen and not taking their time and being precise, they made a lot of mistakes as far as like physical mistakes, things that you should do for safety. So, slow progress or being a little bit slower, taking your time a little bit, that's still progress. And progress is what gets us to where we want to be. So, another thing that's extremely admirable in people who adopt a growth mindset is that they turn constructive criticism into lessons. So, we are all students in a world of many teachings, and we're here to learn. And the people who are the most um, sort of like successful or driven, they are consistent and they are lifelong learners, and they will go the distance every single time. So those are some things to think about with a growth mindset. Now, another thing is, can we change our mindset? Absolutely. I think inherently, and research shows as well, that most of us are kind of like predisposed to a certain disposition or personality, like I said before. Our genetics actually make up 50% of how happy we're going to be and how we are inherently. But you can change that. You could have two negative parents and you could actually change that, and you could be optimistic. And, I had asked my mother one time in the past, I had asked her, well, what was I like as a child? Because I always heard that I was, headstrong and bossy. I love that one. Um, and she said that I was happy. I was a happy little kid. And I had a sibling that was a bit of a grouch. And, you know, for instance, I would wake up in a great mood, happy to start the day. Life was wonderful. My sibling would wake up and just be the biggest grouch you ever met, which is funny because he had two kids, and one of them woke up in the morning in an extremely good mood and sweet as you ever saw a kid in your life, sweetest kid ever. The other child woke up and literally would growl at you if you asked the wrong question. And that was the one I identified with the most because I just thought it was so funny. Like, my, aren't you like your father? So our genetics do determine, and I was always told you're just like your father, which was meant to be sort of an insult, but it's a and that was by my mother. So I take it as a great compliment that I'm just like my father. I like to think the best parts of me are my dad. So with that, I want to go on to a fixed mindset by definition. So fixed mindset, by definition, and you're going to find this interesting. A fixed mindset by definition is someone who's highly resistant to change. How many people do you know that are highly resistant to change? How many people do you know that do not like uncertainty and that have to know what's going on all the time? Um, those people have high levels of stress and anxiety. Those people are worry warts, is what I call them. And I saw a sign one time in a store a long time ago, and it said, worrying is like sitting in a rocking chair. You're never going to get anywhere. And I thought, well, isn't that profound and so true? So that's another is it's a self perpetuating problem to have a fixed mindset. So it holds them back. A fixed mindset holds people back from their potential, their full potential in all areas of life. And I'm talking about education, relationships, um, family, things of that nature. It holds them back because they have a fixed mindset. Um, a fixed mindset prevents individuals from developing skills, knowledge and abilities to the extent that they're capable of. So an example of a fixed mindset, and how many of you know somebody like this, or maybe you tend to be a little bit like this. Examples of a fixed mindset. And I'm going to give you six. There are several. If you dive into the psychology of it, which, by the way, I cannot do this um, class, I cannot speak about mindset without speaking about Carol Dweck, who is the professor of psychology at Stanford University. And Carol Dweck wrote the book Mindset, um, The New Success of Psychology. I believe. Don't quote me. My mind's a little gargled up today from my congestion. But anyway, I'll correct it later if I'm incorrect about that. But Carol Dweck, all you need to know is about Carol Dweck. Type her in, watch her TED Talks. Um, brilliant, brilliant lady. And she basically gave the definition of mindset of fixed and growth. And she did research after research after research. And so I can't, speak about mindset without honoring Carol Dweck, who's a phenomenal person and absolutely just above the intelligence. I mean, just I love people who are smarter than me. Um, which people probably find that funny, but I do. I love to be around people um who offer different perspectives on different um kind of categories or issues or things that I don't know about. I am constantly researching things, constantly looking things up. I'm always getting the newest information on, you know, what I specialize in, which is health and wellness and mindset. And mindset, I would have to say, they're kind of a tie for me for being my favorites. But I have to say that mindset is is just the end all of intrigue for me. So here's some examples of a fixed mindset. I'm going to give you six and think to yourself, have you met people like this before? Have maybe you been like this before? Because I'll tell you a secret, we all have. We all have. We're a mixture of fixed and growth. We're a mixture of it, all of us. Doesn't matter who you are. So the first thing is a desire to appear smart. Giving up when things seem challenging. So stop right there. The growth mindset doesn't give up when things are challenging. In fact, Stanford University did a study on the brains of adolescents doing a test, and the brains of the fixed mindset children were really just not much activity. When they made a mistake on a test, they just went to the next one. They were done with it. They don't try to fix it. They're not trying to problem solve it. Just next one, next. The brains of the growth mindset students, it was on fire. When they encountered a problem or a challenge, they wanted to fix it right then and there. And they wanted to figure it out and problem solve. So that's number two, the fixed mindset, giving up when things seem challenging. Number three, not taking constructive criticism well. And I'm going to stop right there. Most people, and I worked in management and upper management in financial institutions. And first of all, I don't like the word management. You don't manage people, you lead them. People don't need to be managed, they need to be led, and they need to be respected. And I could have a whole other class on that subject. But what I will say is, people with a fixed mindset will take constructive criticism as just criticism. They don't take it as constructive. What is constructive about criticism? If it's just criticism, then that's not constructive at all. It's extremely negative, and generally it puts the other person down in some manner. Constructive criticism, on the other hand, is where you, maybe for an example would be, Nancy, I see that you come in with a very positive attitude every day, and that's great. That's wonderful. I love that about you. And I think it's great. I really do. I think it's really good for your performance and productivity. What you could be working on is maybe not talking so much with coworkers, not socializing so much at work, and just maybe just hit that grindstone a little bit. And that's just kind of a um made up example. I've never had a boss tell me that before, but I although I am a talker, but I've never had that happen before. But that was just an example. Now, open-minded me and growth mindset wanting to adopt me, would say to that, "Oh, okay, well, thank you for letting me know. I will make sure to make a note of that and talk less with coworkers, unless it's like break or lunchtime or something like that." Or something like that. I wouldn't be offended essentially by the constructive criticism. Now, number 4, feeling threatened by the success of others. Um, you know, I have a lot of successful people, success, whatever you label that as in, your definition of success. Everyone has a different definition. I have to get one little drink of water, pardon me. So everyone has a different, you know, idea of success. I have a lot of successful people in my family. I have doctors, engineers, I have West Point graduates, I have or graduate one, and other people in my family that were successful in certain areas. Now, that's never really threatened me that somebody else was successful. But, we're not all the same. I'm more interested in how they got there and what was their journey to that success. What were the habits that they developed to get to that success, to whatever measurement of, and my measurement of success might be different than your measurement of success. So that's number 4, feeling threatened by the success of others. Number 5 is not able to step out of their comfort zone. Now, this is a tough one, okay, because it's a comfort zone because you're not growing. You ever heard of growing pains? Right. So growth can be very painful. It can also be extremely empowering. But people with a fixed mindset, they don't want to step out of their comfort zone. They're happy where they're at. Now, example, me today, nothing went as planned as I wanted it to or thought it would go for doing a live video. Actually had to do a live video instead of my event because my event was like I explained in the beginning of this. But anyway, my comfort zone is not going live. My comfort zone is doing my videos and posting them. Why is that out of my comfort zone? Well, it's out of my comfort zone to do live because I can't go back and stop and then redo it or edit or anything like that. It's live. It is what it is. So you are who you are, and this is just it. It's a finite type of deal. So people with fixed mindsets don't like to step out of that comfort zone. And so I'm guilty myself of having a bit of a fixed mindset in that area because it's not out of fear of failure. It's out of the comfort of what I know. And that's where that uncertainty, people are, with the last couple years and the pandemic, etc., people are like, well, there's just so much uncertainty, but there's uncertainty every day. You don't know that you're going to make it to the next day. Some freak accidents happen. I'm not trying to, put some bad booga booga on anybody, but I'm just saying, you can't live with a sort of, idea that you're going to live forever and that accidents don't happen or sickness doesn't happen or whatnot. I mean, that's not the reality of life. Um, So, number 6 is belief that they have fixed qualities and they're not open to learning new things. Now, what do I mean by fixed qualities? What I mean is by fixed qualities, I mean, for instance, I worked with somebody who was a superior of mine, and she said, I'm not really creative. So you guys can figure such and such out because I'm just not creative. Really? That's interesting because I saw a lot of things that she was extremely creative about. Extremely. So, somewhere down the line, someone told her, "You're not creative." And she believed them, which is a shame. Another time I heard my own son say that he wasn't good at math. And he has a minor, he has a degree in computer science from Western Washington University. Um, and sorry, I had to check that. And he has a minor in math and philosophy. So to hear that I'm not good at math, well, anyone can be good at math. Anyone can be good at math if they, you know, sort of apply themselves. And, like I'm not good at calculus because I've never taken a class for calculus. So I guess I'm not good at it. But could I learn calculus? I probably could. I think I could. Yeah. If I had the opportunity, I think I could learn it. So that's something that about the fixed mindset. And I talked about genetics playing 50% of a role in your personality and how you adapt to certain things. Um, Another thing I wanted to talk about is the power of belief. So researchers took a group, one group of people and another group of people, and they gave them a milkshake. And it was a French vanilla milkshake. And the one group was told that this milkshake is n- no fat, no sodium, nothing bad in it, no soy, no whey protein, nothing bad for you, super healthy, and it's diet and it tastes this good. The other group was told that their milkshake was indulgent and it was a dessert and it did have fat in it and it was really filling. So, being that I'm a health and wellness life coach as well, I talk about nutrition quite a bit. And we have a hunger hormone called ghrelin, and this signals our, you know, our body, our brain. It signals us that, hey, I'm hungry, empty here in the stomach, feed me. So, um, the group that had the diet milkshake and that was told it was so healthy, yada yada, they were hungry afterwards. The group that was told, and their ghrelin was measured, by the way, the ones that were told, the group that was told that their milkshake had full fat, full flavor, etc., etc., they had a feeling of being full, and um their ghrelin hormone was actually measured. And so what they were told, they believed so much. Here's the funny part. What do you think I'm going to say? Those two milkshakes were exactly the same. There was no diet one, no indulgent fat one. They had the same amount of nutrients in each milkshake. It was what one group was told and the power of the belief, and the other group and the power of belief. And then they actually measured the hunger hormone ghrelin to see where um, these people were after they had the shake. So it's just to say that, the power of our beliefs also can change our mindset. I find it easier and easier because it's a practice. Like an athlete trains their body, you're training your mind, where you start the day off with one certain set of circumstances, like maybe I did, like my circumstances today. I'll use me as an example. I couldn't connect. I still don't know if this is going to really work or how many people have seen this. You know, I'm not sure. I've done live before. I'm not sure what happened, and I'm very punctual and I don't like to be late. And since I had, a certain time for my event, and then, just to say, I could have really turned into sort of a bad mood today. I think I could have really just like dwelled on it. It could have kind of put a damper on my whole day. But you know what? I decided not to. And that's what you have to do. You have to train your mind. And it's not about being positive all the time. The reality is, none of us are positive all the time. We're not positive all the time. We're not, the growth mindset is not about being positive all the time. It's not even about being open minded. There's another theory on the mindset, which is called fake growth mindset. And that's been researched quite a bit. Again, Carol Dweck has been involved in that. Stanford University professor of psychology. Um, I have a lot of respect for her research. And I have watched many, many, many TED Talks, Google, etc., with Carol Dweck. And so so growth mindset, just to kind of close this up today, growth mindset is not about being positive all the time. Because the truth is, we can't be positive all the time. That's just not, we're human. But I do want to close on one more thing since this is live. So um something else that Carol Dweck had said, but I want to go back 20 years ago. I was a single parent and I raised my son myself. I raised him financially myself, etc., completely on my own. So I didn't read a lot of parenting books. I had just turned 24 when I had my son. And um, I hadn't read a lot of parenting books, and I don't remember the name of this one, so forgive me. But this one particular parenting book that I picked up really impacted not just my parenting, but my interpersonal relationships, my family relationships, my coworker, and it kind of became a pet peeve word for me, which a lot of younger people use this word quite a bit, I've noticed. So when I was reading this book, it said, don't tell your child that they are perfect. When they clean their room or you give them a task and they do it, don't tell them that's perfect. You did that perfectly. Don't tell them that. And I thought, well, that's interesting. The reason not to tell them that is it puts them on this pedestal of perfection. And then they feel that they always have to achieve perfection for the acceptance. And then it's just a very derogatory thing to say to your kid. Now, who would think of that? Who would think saying that's perfect is so damaging and derogatory to a child? So here's the word that Carol Dweck came up with. And I kind of had an aha moment when she said it. And it brought me back to that book that I read when my son was little, that parenting book. And the word that she came up with that has a derogatory effect on children in study after study after study was the word smart. So, for instance, if your child did an exam and they got a really high score, instead of saying, wow, you are so smart, look at that, you're so smart. Instead of saying that, you would say to your child, wow, you really worked hard on that. Way to go. Or, thumbs up. My son and I always did thumbs up. The problem with the word smart is that it does the same thing as the word perfect. It puts them on this pedestal that they have to stay on. And that gives later in life and during adolescence, gives the child a fixed mentality, a fixed mindset. Example of that would be they're afraid to fail because they won't look smart, because they've been told they're smart. So they have to live up to this, right? I think it would be the same sort of dynamic as a parent saying maybe to their child something derogatory, like you're just not good at such and such. Then the kid just never tries because, they've been told they're not good at it. So So, in closing, I wanted to bring that story up about the words and how our words are so powerful and how our mindset determines the trajectory of, our life. And it's up to us to individually, it's a lifelong process. You can't just say, you know, I'm I'm of growth mind. You might be of growth mind, naturally. However, you know, we all have the mix of both. We have the fixed and we have the growth. The one that you want, obviously, is the growth. But there's a lot of people, like I said, genetics play 50% in this, and that, you're kind of predisposed for a certain position or a certain personality. And, you know, I just had no chance in my family. Um, as a kid, I wasn't confrontational with authority, and I feared authority. Um, I didn't go against authority. I didn't go against it later in life either, really. I'm not much of a rule breaker by nature, I would say. However, I'm extremely assertive. I do have the alpha female qualities and have been called bossy quite a bit. Um, those who know me very well have seen the growth in the. I have two best friends, one of 30 years, one of 31. And if you interviewed them separately, they would say the same thing. The growth process of me and 20 years ago, if someone said a certain thing to me, I would battle it out. Even 10 years ago, and I found out that was because I wasn't confrontational as a child to authority. So as an adult, when I would get kind of flipped the same crap, so to speak, I would be real quick to throw it right back in your face. And then there we go again with, I'm like my dad. Um, he had some common sense I've never seen anybody else have. Uh, so and I had two aunts who are now deceased, and they were they embarrassed me when they would like. I mean, I can't even say some of the stuff that happened, but because it's family stuff, but just to say you wouldn't want to tussle with either one of them. Neither one. My dad's sisters, my dad's side. My mother was an only child. Um, but you wouldn't want to tussle with them. So you wonder sometimes, where do you get that? I've heard, oh, you're a spitfire. You're this, you're that. Um, you inherently get a lot of your personality just in your DNA, and then our environment also shapes us. Thankfully, my environment was around a tiny little grandma who always supported me, who always believed in me and my abilities, and who supported me. Whether I was wrong on something, I did something wrong, or whether I was right on something, she supported me, unconditionally. So I was blessed to have an environment with a grandmother that was like that. And I was blessed later in life to um, really get to know my dad more and more and more as I was an adult. So I think today the takeaway from all of this, think about mindset and think about the daily practice and the gratitude that gratitude attitude, I say, that's the best attitude. And I think it was at Easter at my cousin's, we were talking about what we were thankful for, and I said I have three things every day I'm thankful for. And they're different things and I reflect on them. And sometimes being a positive person is annoying to other people. Just having I could tell you many places I've worked in the financial industry in particular. Many places I've worked where people were just they hate their job. They come in and they have a horrible attitude. They don't want to be there. They don't want you there. And they don't want to be there. And it's like, you know, um, part of the reason that I do what I do now is because I did something similar years ago working in behavioral therapy. And the point that I'm making is life is far too short to work and be in an environment that is not conducive to your growth. And sort of the last corporate America job that I had, oof, that was beyond disappointing. It was beyond disappointing, and it was an eye opener as to how people can um, not be their authentic selves. And I think that when you find a job that you love, you would do it for free. You would do it for free. Money is not everything. And study after study after study, money does not bring happiness. There are a lot of suicidal people. Look at all the rock stars that have overdosed or suicide, and they had tons of money. Didn't make them happy. I know people right now that would be considered wealthy that are not happy and they're not content. And I say the biggest secret of life and being a happy person is your relationships, your work, meaningful work, your purpose. And if you don't know what your purpose is, you better you better find it. So, with that, I gotta check one thing. So, with that, I want to close this out. Thank you so much. I hope that this worked out. I don't even know if this live feed is working or not. So, if you have made it through this whole thing, I appreciate it. And I will work out the bugs and figure out next time what kind of event I could actually have happen. Or maybe I should just do live and not do an event because Facebook is um I can't even explain to you what happened this morning with my event. It was it was a bit much. And I was, I think when you don't feel good, you have tolerance that's a little bit lower. So so thank you so much for being here and I appreciate you. I'm so glad that you guys are here and that you have the interest you do in yourself, investing in yourself. And I really hope and pray next time goes a lot better. So, with that, have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week. Take care.